in other words,
Yes.
within the Church of Scientology's own system
right.
of dealing with issues.
That's right. In my claims, the bullying and harassment, a lot of this stuff can be seen in the documentation if you know what it means. So if possible, I can take time to actually put those together with the terminology so it makes sense, because to present it to somebody else, unless you're a Scientologist, it doesn't mean a lot. So if you would require that, or if you'd like that, I'm happy to do that. I just don't have that ready today. That's going to take a bit of time.
I think it would be useful, Chair, in terms of
the view of the committee seems to be to accept it. The point of it all is, however, it must be related to whether or not a public benefit test is desirable for religious organisations to be eligible for tax-exempt status.
I think my only point on that is the only reason I'd like you to look at that is so far there is an appearance where the Church of Scientology can say we are a church, we have volunteer ministers, we run Sunday service, therefore we are for the public benefit. And it's only exposing something like this where you can actually have a look into an organisation, and I'm not saying targeting Scientology, that's my only experience. I don't know about other cults, religions, obviously that's what you're here for, so I can only present that there is other things that are not always to the public benefit, and how do we then address these things as a country.
Yeah, we understand that. So thank you very much for that evidence.
Excuse me, I forgot to ask if I could get these tabled.
If that's the wish of the committee to accept your documents, then it is the wish of the committee, so they can be tabled. Questions?
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure. I'll just ask these questions generally, and whoever feels competent to answer them can do that, I suppose. One of the issues that no one has raised is the distinction between a charity and a commercial enterprise. Is there any views on any of the committee, so the Roundtable members, as to whether there should be a distinction between commercial enterprise and charity?
Absolutely.
So can someone just explain that position to me?
I'll give an example, if I may. I've worked for a number of the social betterment Scientology groups, and they are required as part of their charter to take 10% of all monies coming in deemed to be management expenses, 3% of which goes straight to the Church of Scientology, and at least half of that is immediately sent overseas. I find that that is more a commercial thing rather than a charity thing, and I think that maybe that should be part of the public benefits test, is to look at where money is actually flowing. Brian Seymour raised the same point in his Today Tonight program last Tuesday night on maybe the money trail needs to be more
not an avid
evident.
follower of Today Tonight.
That's fine. But I'm just saying that I think an area of concern is where is the money going, because at the moment the accounts are not always transparent for a not-for-profit organisation, and I think that should definitely be part of it, because in my own experience this money has been taken not for the public benefit but for the benefit of particular small groups or individuals. And I'm not just targeting Scientology here, there's been many other groups where this has happened, and that if we're going to have a public benefits test, yes, there should be a very distinct delineation between a commercial enterprise and a charitable organisation as to who's getting the money that's being given.
The bill says there must be an identifiable benefit arising from the aims and activities of the entity. Some of the submissions we've had go to some outcomes for Scientology that you would generally say would be in the public benefit. That is drug education and prevention, voluntary ministry, defending human rights, promotion of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are outlined on the public record by Scientology as issues that go to the public benefit. And I suppose if members like Miss Underwood, believe that Scientology could save the world, then you can understand why some members of Scientology would say, look, there's a real public benefit here, this is a great organisation, it's doing things that other churches do, and it is a net public benefit. How do you deal with that sort of
They would say
position?
that and believe it. In fact, they go to, in Scientology, 4 events a year cover the benefits of Scientology to the broader community, and these are in very general terms. Thousands of people reach with the drug-free message, that kind of thing. The fact is there's an organisation within Scientology that takes approximately $100 million a year called the International Association of Scientologists. It has refused to open its books on several accounts. It doesn't show its expenditure. And recent defectors from the International Association of Scientologists claim that no more than 10% of the money taken goes to the causes that it claims to have been supporting. There is a tremendous accent on the taking of money. So it's got to be weighed up as a level of transparency has got to be given in order to attain tax exemption, I feel. It hasn't been forthcoming from some organisations.
And in addition to that, as I mentioned in my address earlier, for one thing, what was I going to say now? It's totally gone. Isn't that stupid? Typical me. Just had it, but I lost it.
Can I just say
I just want to say about it should be commensurate with its income. The Church of Scientology makes millions and millions of dollars, and the activity that is done by, the drug campaign, this, that, and everything else, it is nothing compared to the millions of dollars that the Church of Scientology makes with its various little different separate corporations. And besides that, it's not funded or resourced by the church.
What makes that different from other churches?
Well, the church doesn't fund it, or it's actually done by the members, and the members are pretty well coerced and forced into doing it, or encouraged. But basically, while there's all these resources that the church has, it doesn't use those resources for that. It basically heavily coerces its members to do it, and not only just to do it, but to do it also for its public and religious image.
May I give you a specific example of this, Senator?
What we're saying here is, though, that they raise this money and they claim it from tax. Is that correct?
Basically, these monies are claimed as tax exempt. Yeah.
Sorry.
If I may give you a specific example, I was the executive director of the church's drug rehabilitation program, Narconon, for not just Australia but New Zealand and the South Pacific region. We had a Narconon in Nepal that was being sponsored by its executive director, who was a retired police superintendent, and he was sponsoring this totally by his own pension and his salaries that he was getting. I wanted to request that the International Association of Scientologists help this guy out because he wasn't able to collect money for it. He had something like 65 addicts that he was trying to treat via the Narconon program. He was in severe financial distress, and I attempted to get the International Association of Scientologists to actually fund this, because after all, the International Association of Scientologists were part of Scientology, and Scientology was using this drug rehabilitation in Nepal as an example of their outreach programs, and I was told that there would be no way in the world they would help bail this guy out. He had to handle it himself.
They have a policy where each separate unit, such as this man's activity, has to fund itself as well as pay a tithe to the church.
Yeah, he was supposed to pay me 10% of his money for management expenses, which I then sent some to Narconon International, and I sent some directly to a church body called the Association for Better Living and Education, which is a sealed management unit in the church. So although he was a charity, there was no money going to be sent to him unless it was raised by him or people with him, and he's working in one of the poorest countries in the world, which is Nepal, attempting to get people off drugs. And he's obviously charging them for it, but contrary to Scientology policy, he could not take money up front because that's just a complete no-no in Nepal. So he was he would finish someone on the program, they wouldn't be the astounding success they were supposed to be, and he couldn't get money for it. And he was basically broke, but still being forced to continue this rehabilitation program at his own expense.